Hi, I'm George Popi, one of the founders of Chaos. When starting a business, it is super easy to get lost in the details and not see the forest for the trees. So to keep my sanity while creating chaos, I've decided to sit down with other entrepreneurs to learn about how they navigate their own personal and business lives. Hopefully, you'll learn a thing or two along the way. You're listening to That Startup Life podcast. Before we get this episode started, I had a very long debate on how to release a specific conversation. Failure is a natural part of entrepreneurship, and over the last few months at Chaos, we have learned that the subscription studio model that we had in mind to start wasn't working. And since then, we have basically been transitioning our business model to better serve our customers moving forward. The following interview got recorded at the peak of my stress on this front. And because my guest, Will, is such a good friend, we ended up having a very candid conversation about this subject. And it did help me personally move forward and refocus on the things that we were doing right. I didn't think I was going to release any part of that conversation for a very long time because it is insanely terrifying to admit when things are not perfect. However, I strongly encourage and support people being very honest about both the good and the bad. So I felt hypocritical to not share. So I am releasing this episode basically in full, only lightly edited for context and time, with the hope that it helps someone. So I am joined today by my good friend, Will Liu. He is the co-founder and CEO of Nimbus Tutoring. So thank you so much for joining us today, Will.
Thank you for having me, George.
The classic pleasantries of coming to podcast. This is interesting because we have now known each other, I want to say almost a year fully, but it's been interesting because I've always found your tenacity as a startup and as a founder kind of inspiring. So Nimbus was founded 3 years ago. Why don't you walk me through like how the idea to found Nimbus kind of started?
Sure. So it kind of started during my undergrad, and I went to McGill, started in 2013. And during my first year, I would say probably my second semester, I realized that I needed some help with a course that I was taking, Calc 2. And I realized that it was really difficult to find some extra help in the form of tutoring with the resources that were available. And so that experience made a mark on me, and I just remembered it. And so I continued on university, and in my third year, I was kind of just looking to do something on the side as a hobby, as a passion project. And me and a few friends, some of the co-founders here today, we decided to spend our times building an app and to kind of fix some of these problems that we had. And so we started that in January 2016, and after a year working on it, we kind of had the first prototype where you could play around with it and kind of get the idea. And then I would say we launched after I graduated in October of 2017 at McGill, and found that there was considerable amount of traction there. And then we decided to scale that to Concordia, where we got a similar amount of traction. And then we started entering into these startup competitions like Dobson Cup, and started placing, and then getting accepted into accelerator programs, and it just all kind of took off from there. But I think at the heart of it is that we wanted to build something where people who wanted to learn something and better themselves can find people who have a passion teaching that field. And so that is kind of what we set out to build. And so that's how we got here, I would say.
Not a bad start. I'm going to pick up on the thread that you kind of had.
Sure.
More before we were starting to like actually record, where like you have taken investment money.
Yeah.
And the classic like idea is that you need to be growing things 10x.
Yeah.
And you yourself have just said like maybe it's better to grow things at like a reasonable like 2x pace to like really lay down foundations. Like what has that journey been like where like you first were kind of trying to build a rocket ship, and then you kind of maybe realized that like you need to take a bit more time and it's okay if things are slow.
Right. I think for us, when we were part of a lot of these accelerator programs, we met in touch with a lot of people from the VC community and a lot of successful people who started big companies and IPO'd them or sold them for an insane amount of money. And looking back on it, it really did kind of influence us being in their presence. We kind of looked at them as if they were gods, and a lot of them, gave us a lot of great advice. But I think it also, while talking to them, we had this idea in ourselves that we needed to 10x. That was the magic number, and so we held ourselves to that, and it kind of hurt us in the long run, I would say. And fortunately, we found that out before it really hurt us. But we kind of we realized that 10x may not be for every company. And I've been reading this book, Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, the memoir, and he was talking about how his early days with Nike. What he did with them was they decided to 2x every year and just focus on steady growth. And after the accelerator, and being in touch with all these people, we decided, we're going to go. We made it work at one university and kind of work at another university. Let's go to 15 universities. And the idea for that decision was that we really wanted to show the people, investors or people in the VC community or advisors that, we were focused on building a 10x company. And what ended up happening was we spread ourselves too thin. A lot of the things that worked at McGill, we thought they worked really well, and a lot of things did work really well, but I think it just required a little bit more time to kind of better understand a lot of the things we were doing. And I think looking back on it, we learned that, not every company needs to 10x, especially if they're early. I think the right move should be to, focus on just growing your revenue and just focus on 2xing.
I find it interesting that, I don't know about you, but I feel like there's now a lot more think pieces about kind of growing at that more steady pace, and seeing the alternatives rather than just going for like VC money, investor money, where like their expectations are you're going to build the next Facebook.
Right.
And have you been having these conversations with other people, or is this just something that, like, with how everything has gone for your team, like that was just like the most natural progression, but do you think that's starting to shift in the ecosystem? Or
I think mainly for us, at least for myself, it was more just going through kind of our personal experiences. But I do recall a few people mentioning that especially when I went to Boston, actually, that over there it's more about building a solid business with the right fundamentals, and then taking in investment money when you need to, and then growing 10x when you need to. So a combination, a little bit of both, but I would say mainly through our own experiences, that realization came to us.
Yeah, it's like, I know personally it's so tough because I think there's that dream of that sparkly, like, building something that grows insanely fast, and it's so tempting and you want to get there so quickly.
Right.
And I also think that's like partly what happens with young founders. But like, we're both super young and there's nothing wrong with that, but I think we kind of build into that idea or that hype of, we should be able to build something like Facebook, where it's like, we're coming in, we're trying to like disrupt the market.
Yeah.
We're just going to solve everything and everything's going to fly off the shelf.
Right.
And then it doesn't. But yeah, it's like, because like your team has also like iterated over the course of the 3 years at this point. How has it been handling like having your team shift underneath you while you're kind of operating?
The first time that you were working with somebody and they came up to me and said, I talked with my family and I think we're going to pursue that I'm going to pursue another direction for me. That was really tough, and I would say it's always tough to have those conversations. But you deal with it at the end of the day. You deal with it.
Do you deal with it?
Well, kinda, but like at the end of time heals all. Like you said, we went through different iterations, and I think at the end of the day, though, there are some core people on the team that have stuck through these iterations, that have remained while other people kind of come and go, and I think I feel really grateful to have these people around me, and I consider them my co-founders. And we, we've been through the highs and the lows together. And whether or not they leave or come, at the end of the day, we're all going to look back on this and have some very fond memories. And it's just part of the life, the startup life, but it's what makes it kind of exciting. You have these ups and lows. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I think that's putting it very, very mildly, that there's ups and downs.
Yeah.
Like the same way, like how, like I've like had my share of insane failures,
right,
and lows. I think something I've been like very impressed with how you've dealt is that you seem to know sometimes when to take a step back. I think I remember you saying once that because the first time you applied to like the X1, they rejected you. Yeah. You waited a year and then you got accepted, and it's like it feels like that's always kind of been the story, where it's like you seem like you have some success and then you kind of get punched down. Yeah. And then you kind of keep up. Like how have those conversations been internally of like, okay, like we have faced this failure, now we have to get back up?
I think for us, we've always been very clear in what we want to do, and there's always been a clear vision in that sense. And that's, we want to build a platform where people who need help or want to learn can be connected to those that are just as passionate to teach, and that's been the vision since day one. And I think the mentality is that we're going to do it, whether or not this program accepts us or with any negative thing that happens. And so anytime we kind of face some hardships, we always kind of reconvene again and just say, what are we trying to build here? And just get back on the same page and just put some perspective to it. So what we don't get into this program this year, we continue doing what we do best. And so, yeah, you go through highs and then you go through lows, but at the end of the day, I think all the lows that we've been through made us more resilient and a lot and happened for the better for us. The first time we got rejected from X1, it sucked. We took a day to just we're like, all right, well, we had just to sulk and then the next day we were just like, all right, let's get back to it. It's not like we started this for this accelerator program. We started it because we wanted to build something, and we're going to do it regardless. And
because I've never had investors. Okay. How has that relationship been, like cultivating it and then kind of following it back and forth?
Yeah, it's so I think initially I didn't really it's definitely was a little different because initially when we didn't have investors, you kind of just ran the show, and then when you take in other people's money, you got to be responsible for it, and you got to let them know how it's being spent, and so that was kind of an adjustment period to but now I think after a couple months, we have me and our investors have a kind of groove to it, and I feel very fortunate to have investors that are they're very helpful and understanding, and when we went through hard times, they understood and they gave their 2 cents, and they've helped. And when things are going good, they keep us grounded as well. And so it was an adjustment at first, but I think it was for the better. And I feel very fortunate and a lot of gratitude for them for taking a chance on us. And I think the best advice I have to give is just be honest. Just be honest with the investors. When things are going good, let them know. And when things are going bad, don't hide anything, and just tell them. And you'd be surprised that they're willing to help you, and then they definitely want to help you. It's their money, and they want to make sure to see it grow. And so yeah, I definitely think it's been great.
When it's been rough, out of curiosity, what is that kind of phone call conversation where it's like, is it like, yeah?
Yeah. So
I'm imagining very much like a parent child, where it's like, they're like, we're not angry, we're just disappointed. Maybe it's not true. I don't know.
No, it's good. It's kind of like that. We pivoted. We pivoted from a B2C marketplace to kind of a B2B business where we license our technology to student unions and universities and help them launch their peer-to-peer tutoring programs through tech-driven solutions. And so, but we made this pivot with the help of our investors as well. We made this decision because we were taking a look at our model and at the universities that we were at, and it just simply wasn't generating enough traction. And there's a million different reasons why, but at the end of the day, we talked about it with them, with the team, and I remember coming to them and I said, this is how much money we've spent, which was a lot, and this is how much we got, which was not a lot. and then I remember, I was with my co-founder Ben, and we were just sitting there, and they're like, so this is the amount of money that's been spent. And we were like, yes. And then they just sat there and they're like, and it was the most, I kid you not, it was a very, very awkward pause. We just sat there in silence. There was not anything else that needed to be said. And me and Ben, we just shut up and we just said, let's brace what would come. And surprisingly, they took it very well. They were silent for about 20-30 seconds, which felt like the longest time. But after they said, okay, well, let's figure out where we go from now. Clearly, there's some things wrong with what we're doing right now, but let's work together and figure out something that can work and modify some of the things with the lessons that we learned. And so, because we let them know and we didn't hide the fact, we were able to get to a solution much quicker, and we're doing really good right now. So I'm really happy that we're honest.
Well, to be fair, you look a lot healthier since the pivot.
Yes.
I think there was like a solid maybe month or two stretch where you were super stressed whether to make the move or not. Because I think I know I'm like, it's tough to be like, we fucked up. Again, I think I'm going through one of those moments right now myself where I'm like, okay, so the studio's a great idea if we could automate it. We do not have the money or the talent right now to automate it to the extent that we need to make it work today.
Right.
So it's like, well, how the hell? Well, how do we get to that, like doing that idea, like and understanding that the short term, like we're if we try it, we're gonna kill ourselves.
Well, I think, fucking up is the wrong word. And perhaps that was also some of the words that I used a couple months ago when we were in the middle of pivoting. I looking back on it, I don't think we fucked up. I don't think at all. And I don't think, it may seem like that for you right now, but trust me on this. Keep going, and in a 2 months time, in a month's time, maybe you're gonna look back on it, and I don't necessarily think you're gonna be like, we fucked up. I look back on our pivot now, and I think the dots always connect when you look backwards. We made mistakes, yes. We kind of made assumptions that weren't true, yes, but at the end of the day, to say we fucked up, I don't necessarily think that is true. And I think if we didn't go through those experiences, we wouldn't be on pace to where we're at right now. And so give it a month, give it some time, and time to reflect, and you're gonna look back on it and realize that you're happy that happened, and I think we're also really happy that happened, and it taught us a lot. And you only get stronger.
No, I love how that turned to free therapy for me. That's great. No, but it's true, because I know, man, the amount of times I've gone through that moment where it's like, in the now it seems so dire,
right?
And then you have that like 2, 3, 4 months, or like even a year kind of time span to reflect, and you're like, this was nothing.
Yeah.
Like, you learn your lessons,
right? You
have the cuts, you're a little battered and bruised, like from the entire experience, but like you're still standing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I think that's what I've been really interested about. The companies and the entrepreneurs that I really fucking love are the ones who kind of just keep at it and they stay in the space long enough to actually succeed, because they've learned their mistakes and they've they've gone through enough mistakes that they've eventually like figured out, okay, this is like the core of how to do it really well. There is, because like I think there's a dangerous edge to it where sometimes we end up sometimes glorifying failure instead of like, failure is not like what we want to achieve. Like no one should be like, oh my God, I failed. Awesome.
It doesn't feel good.
No, it doesn't feel good. And
but it can lead to something better.
It can lead to something better if you are succeeding along the way as well.
Right.
I think it's just like dangerous at this point with like Silicon Valley, where it's like almost like you have to fail up, and it's like, wait a minute, you have to fail. Like that like one part of that sentence is like, this is kind of weird.
You know, I was on the way here from Toronto. I was listening to the audio version of Shoe Dog, and in one of the last chapters, he kind of reflects on his life, on how he built Nike, and his kind of advice for future entrepreneurs. And he talked about how those that say never give up are charlatans, and he said at some points you do have to give up. But he said something that I remember that he said is that sometimes you might give up, but don't ever stop. Keep going, don't ever stop. So how I took that was don't ever stop on the business, keep going, truck it through, and endure through the rough times. But sometimes it might make sense to give up on a certain business model and pivot to something that is more viable. But that doesn't necessarily, giving up doesn't necessarily mean stopping.
Yeah, it's like keep the core, but get rid of the things that aren't working. I think to go along with that, I know that you've right now been spending more time thinking about the future of the business, and you've been delegating. First, how has that felt to actually delegate? Because you, I think, really like control.
Yeah,
at times.
I like micromanaging. Yeah.
Hey,
I'm a
huge.
Perfectionist sometimes. Yeah.
How has that been, like removing yourself from that?
Honestly, I remember when we were going through the pivot, we chatted about it, and you gave me some very great advice, which was that, as a CEO, you can't be working in the business, but you need to work on the business. And that was something that, I nodded and really stuck with me. And ever since that, that's been my motto. And it's been a little over a month, but I'm actually really, really happy with adopting that kind of mentality and that managing style. I think before I was really focused on making sure that every little thing was perfect, and that's not scalable. Your job as a CEO is to kind of you can't be there for everything, and especially if you're trying to build a big company. At a certain point, it's just impossible. And so, and it was driving me crazy. I think I was getting really stressed out as well, trying to micromanage everything. And at some points, you just got to trust the people that you have on your team. And I'm glad I had that conversation with you. And since then, I've just been telling people, this is what we need to do. Here are some things to get you started. Let me know if you need anything, and I'm here if you need me. And so that's been the thing, and it's actually freed up a lot of time for me to think about the future of the business, like you were saying, and establish new connections, new partnerships with people, and so that has. Thank you for that. It's been great for my mental health as well, and I think it's been great for the business as well, and people like that kind of autonomy, and the guys are I think they're flourishing.
It's crazy what people can do when they are given that freedom. Again, it also depends on who you have. Like if you have the right people in the room, that's when it works. It's now, because now I just feel like I've just had my horn tooted.
No. It's
it's a compliment. But I think
great.
it also
Thank
speaks.
You.
No, because again, I think like the amount of times, like again, you just gave me a pep talk, and I think that's something that is taken for granted. Maybe sometimes, like where I think something that I've enjoyed about our friendship is the fact that we are pretty candid about the bad moments and the good moments in between, and we're kind of like, I think you have to be there for each other because again, it's very lonely.
Right.
Being a founder, like running a company, it's tough, and it's again, I don't know why people are afraid about showing those vulnerabilities. Well, I kind of do, but it's weird that we put more of a barrier on ourselves on this kind of front. Because right now you guys are at D3.
Yeah.
So it's an it's an incubator space.
Co-working space.
It's a co-working space hosted by Concordia. How has that space kind of been in that front?
Fantastic. It's been great. I think it's wonderful what they're doing. They have a great space, and I encourage all startups in the Montreal community to take advantage of it.
A plug for Concordia D3. Right?
Yeah, exactly. No, I can't thank them enough. It's a free working space, and so that's definitely been great. But they also provide great services. And so they have workshops and they invite speakers. And recently I attended a few sales workshops by this guy Andre, and he gave us a lot of great insights on just sales techniques and what's important for a sale. Like what the whole point of a sale is you're trying to help somebody and you're trying to solve them. And we had always understood that, but like I think hearing him kind of speak it in a different way from a different perspective really hit on us. And
having gone through like a lot of this programming, what's been the most beneficial thing to actually come out of being so plugged into the ecosystem?
In Montreal, or just
or
as,
like
a, as
general,
a startup,
or like as a startup, or even like because I'm assuming, I'm very much assuming that if you had the chance to do everything again, like you would have followed a similar path.
I remember before we started participating in these startup competitions and applying for all these programs, we felt kind of isolated. We felt kind of alone, that we were the only ones that were trying to build things like that had an idea, a crazy idea, and that wanted to kind of to better your existing your existing environment. And so I remember that we had launched the first product in October 2017, and we had a killer launch, and it was great. And then one of my New Year's resolutions coming back for the next year was that I wanted to be more kind of plugged in with the rest of the startup ecosystem. Partly because we felt kind of isolated. We felt like that, but and we wanted to see if there was anybody else out there. And there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of people out there.
There's a whole ecosystem.
Yeah, and I'm so glad we did. There's a lot of, if it weren't for us doing that, I don't think we would be here. There's a lot of people out there willing to help, that have made mistakes that you don't necessarily need to make, and that can guide you and to the right resources, to the right people. And had we not, if we did not decide to do that, we would not have participated in Dobson Cup, and we would not have gotten into the X1, and we probably likely wouldn't have found any investors as well to support us as well. And so I think you'd be surprised as to how many people that are in the startup world that are willing to help and give their 2 cents and guide you.
Like when you do ask for help, like what's that kind of conversation like? Where like right now, I'm like you go to investors if you have something big, but like have you been approaching other people that are just in the space, or is it just like now you're just tapping your network at this point? Yeah.
So last week we had a meeting with the CEO of Student Care, and what they do is they sell they sell insurance to student unions, and through the student unions they provide insurance for undergrads and other for students in general. And so, anyways, I connected with him, and I just simply emailed him and saying, hey, my name is William. I'm a founder of Nimbus, and this is what we do. And I got your email from this person, and I was just wondering if it would be possible to have a meeting and to get your advice. And he replied the next day saying, yeah, absolutely. And we met up and gave us a lot of insight onto how universities operate, how student unions operate, and when's the right time to approach people and who to approach, and so it's been yeah. Thank you, Lev. But it's a surprisingly really simple thing. Just send out an email, and if they don't respond, that's okay. Follow up with them. They might just be busy. I had to follow up with Lev a couple of times just to coordinate the dates, because these people are also really busy, but that doesn't necessarily mean they don't want to help. And so we've met with a lot of people, and it's always the same thing. Can we pick your brain a bit? Can we get some advice? And love to hear your thoughts on this. And people are willing to help, and I'm thankful that they're willing to help.
Yeah. I know I get trapped in that idea of like, when I want to approach someone, I want to give them value right off the bat, and it can feel weird where it's like, I just need help, and like, can you just give me your time in exchange for I don't know what yet. Mm-hmm. But I think it becomes an interesting thing where it's like, how, like, you're now starting to have meetings with people that are like, are influential, that are running things successfully. It's like, do you ever get intimidated that like, oh, I've just made this thing up. How am I here?
Yeah. Honestly, it doesn't really intimidate. I think, for myself at least, and I think for other people, well, and for our team, we want to build this, and you can't build something alone just by yourself. You need to talk to people, and by talking with people, and exchanging ideas and hearing ideas and getting criticism, getting compliments on certain things, that's how your business forms. That's how you know what's working right and what's not working. And because of that, we've never really been intimidated by the fact. And I think people like to help. And we've gotten startups that have come up to us asking, can you provide some help? For us, we're applying to the Dobson Cup, and you guys were winners, and so could we structure our pitch and get some advice from you? And we're very happy to help. And I think that's just part of the mindset that the community should have, is that we've been helped so much by others, and we should do our part and give back. And I think Lev said something at the end of the meeting, and he always said it's always great to see young people go off and try to build their ideas and build businesses and take risks, and I think that's really attractive to people, and I think that's why people kind of that's what makes entrepreneurship interesting.
There is something to be said that there's like the fallacy of youth, where like youthfulness is something that we desire in our culture.
Yeah. Take advantage of it.
Oh, definitely. Oh man, I definitely have those moments in meetings where I realize that someone takes me serious. Like, it's funny because there's two situations. Either someone doesn't take me seriously at all because I'm too young, and they're like, "You have no experience. You have no idea what you're talking, kid." Or they're like, "Oh, this kid, he's gonna go far just because he's young and he has his finger on the pulse." It's funny to see that like reactions in both people. It's like probably somewhere in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely happened as well for me. It's like, you're too young. You still have a lot to learn. I think I had a conversation with somebody like that, with somebody that we were just trying to get some advice with, but it is what it is. I think there's always golden nuggets out of every conversation. People might say that, but if you really dig deep into your conversation and then the notes you took from that and the questions you asked, you'll be able to find something that is valuable. Yeah.
Like, I do wonder what it's going to be like where it's like, oh, we've reached like our 40s. I wonder.
Still a long time.
Yeah, but it's not that long, because that's mid-career.
Yeah, well, okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's in the trajectory of your career, 40, like, I think that's like pretty safe. Maybe 50.
40,
if we're really getting,
I don't even, that's like 17 years from now. Yeah.
For you?
For you, how many? 15?
Ouch.
Dude, that's a long time.
Wait, yeah, to get to 40, that is 16 right now.
That's a long time.
It is.
Think about where were you like 15 years ago.
I was a kid.
Yeah. Think about how much. But I guess
Yeah.
that's what makes it exciting. We have all this time. We definitely need to take advantage of it. And, we're going to look back, I feel like, when we're 40 and just be like, wow, I wish. I've talked to a lot of people and they're like, what I would give to be 23 again, definitely.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know about you. I get those conversations where someone, so like it's weird because like I think like part of me like there's a lot of people. Okay, I'm trying to navigate this where like I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but there's a lot of people.
Yeah, no, that's always good.
I know this is challenging because like there's like ageism here potentially, so I'm just gonna like try to navigate this as appropriately as possible. But like I am a workaholic, and I know this about myself.
Yes, you are.
I've accepted that, and like I also like I fully accept that because at least I chose a career that I can be a workaholic and I can enjoy it.
Yeah, well, look at the bags under your eyes.
I'm not always healthy, but I at least enjoy my time because that's who I am. It's like either I'm 0 or 100. I know that about myself where I can probably be like a horrible employee for a lot of people because like if I don't feel motivated, I just don't feel motivated. But like if I feel motivated, holy crap, I can't stop.
Right.
Again, it's an addiction.
I feel you.
It's an addiction in a certain extent. And I've just figured a way to make it healthy-ish.
Yeah.
But because of that drive, there's a lot of people that are older who are like, oh man, like you were so driven. Like when I was younger, like I had like no idea where I was going and all this stuff. I'm like, I still have no idea where I'm going, but it's like I'm just channeling this energy into that. And where I'm going with this thought is that I do wonder what that means when I'm 40. Like, am I like? Am I gonna all of a sudden like switch back and be like, oh, I should have like spent my 20s like enjoying life more, or am I gonna be like, no, you know what, that was great, and now like I'm chilled out? I don't know.
Well,
there's a lot to unpack there. There wasn't even a question. It's more of a conversation at this point. Again,
I agree with you. I don't know, but I think it's for me. I feel like as long as you're pursuing something that you enjoy, I think that when you look back on it, there's nothing you would change. And for me, I had the choice between pursuing medicine and pursuing this, whatever this is, and building something that you believe in. And I think that my passion was to build this out and see it through and see where it goes and just follow my curiosity and intuition and looking back on it, I don't regret a thing. And if that's the case, then I'll continue to follow my passion, my curiosity, and see where it leads me to. And I think doing that, if we do that, then we'll be 40 and we're not going to regret a thing. And do you regret anything that you've done in the past?
Well,
maybe in the short term, yes.
Well, do I regret getting kicked out of a company? Yes. No, but I similarly have that ideology of like the way I live my life is that I never want to have regrets.
Yes.
And I don't hold myself accountable for having not known all the information
right
at the time. Like I want to always be striving to like I did the best with the information I had.
Right.
And I always look at like what am I going to regret when I'm 70?
Right.
What am I like on my deathbed? What are the things I'm going to be like? Why didn't I take this? And like in like knowing what I had known at that time.
Right.
And I don't every single decision I've made. I want to say I've always like gambled and risked it. Mm-hmm. And I'm much happier for it.
No, absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
It's scary.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. But yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way. It's led to places that I just would never have imagined.
Right.
Again, I'm sitting in my own creation.
Yeah, look at this. This is sick.
I know. Every single episode, it's really funny. I've like very much cut it down where like everyone's like, oh my God, the space is incredible.
It's fucking incredible. You got the lights, you got the green backdrop.
I still don't believe that exists. but yeah, it's like if there's been prices to pay for all that, and it's and I've definitely, the bags under my eyes are prices to pay for it. But yeah, I wouldn't change it. And it's tough to be like, because I don't know about you, but I have envy for the people that, all they want is like a 9 to 5 job and just hang out with their friends on the weekend. Like, I have envy for that.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's more a fact that it's stable.
Yeah.
I have envy of the stability, and I think that was something that, when we were in the middle of pivoting, that I was very envious of, and it's one thing that I was talking to my co-founder Abdu, and he just said, everybody's got their own path to walk, and they're doing their thing, which is great, and it's stable, and perhaps that is that's great. But the thing is that are you really going to enjoy that? The grass is always greener on the other side, right? And sometimes I think about it as like, what if I just went full force and tried to go for med, and got into medicine, and went to be a doctor. And I'm not saying I might not do that in the future, but for right now, I don't think it's the right time for that, for me at least. I think I want something with a little bit more ups and downs. And you've heard me complain during the downs. But
you complain? No.
Well, you've heard me, just be petulant about the downs, but that's not to say for all the highs and for all the ups, there's nothing that really compares, honestly, when you land a deal, when you build something that people are using, when you have a great meeting with people that's going to lead to more opportunity, and you just look at this and you look at the thing you built, and you look at your teammates and you say, wow, we built this, and from an idea, and now it's a living, breathing thing that's working and that's functioning, and for all those moments where you look back and for all the highs, it makes the lows worth it. And I don't think there's anything I've really experienced that are as high as that. And so I think that's 9 to 5 jobs. Nothing wrong with them. I just don't think they're for me. And stability, maybe when I, in a couple of years, when I have family, when I have kids, that'll be important. But when I'm 23, I got nothing to lose, and I think you don't as well. And so, just remind yourself of that.
No, I do. Again, because I'm hyper aware that I'm envious of it, but I also don't want it. Because if I wanted it, I would have made those decisions.
Right.
But I think but it's interesting actually right now, because I think we're both going through these moments of, like, we have lived a very sporadic startup life where things are on fire, literally every day, and then we're both trying to like carve our ways back,
right,
to some form of relative stability in those pursuits.
Relative stability. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, because I know, like, for myself, it's like I am now starting to really adopt the mantra of saying no to opportunities.
Right.
Where it's because again, I think when I started, I said yes to everything. Again, you just need to get your foot in the door. You say yes to this, say yes to that.
Right.
And it's like, no, you know what? I'm going to say yes to the things that are really important.
Right.
And again, this was a conversation I had with Renji, and I was like, oh, I need to start applying this. But it's tough. It's really tough to have those moments of like, okay, I don't want the stability. Like, it's a 9 to 5. I don't want to have that, but we need to be building something towards that, where we're no longer just like scrambling.
Right.
As a founder, have you ever considered whether like you are a founder for a certain stage of the company? Because I sometimes wonder where I'm like, am I just a founder that's really good at the early stage, where it's like we have no idea, like everything is green, there's no infrastructure, like I can build it to a certain part.
I don't know, honestly. I don't know. I guess I'll know when when I get there. And for me, ideally, I'd like to see things through. And I think if that day comes, or when that day comes, I will be happy that it comes. I watched this. I saw this little short clip of Oprah the other day.
As one does.
And it was when she was like a year into starting her show, and she did an interview, and the interviewer was saying, the show is going really well right now, but what if it fails? And her response is, it's not going to fail. And she said, but what if it does? And she said, if it does, I will not fail. And I will not fail because I am not defined by my show. And I took that as I'm not defined by the company that I started, or the startup that I'm working with. And she said that we are defined by the relationships that we have, by the way we treat people, and at the end of the day, it was a very short clip, just 15, 20 seconds, but I think it's just really important because, as much as everything that's going around in the startup world, I think it's really important to keep perspective that, if things aren't working out, or, if that one day you do leave the company, you're not defined by the company. You're defined by the people that you, the relationships that you have, the way you treat your family, your friends, your colleagues, your customers, and as long as you're genuine and your intentions are pure, and which I believe that our intentions are pure, that you're there to help people, and that you genuinely believe that you're building something to better people's lives. If that day comes where you do, where a founder does go because other people can come in to better people's lives, then so be it. And so I see that if you do need to leave the company to invite better talent, I see that as a great thing. And to others it might seem like some sort of kind of like failure or incompetency, but I just see it as it's you're doing the right thing. And so for me, maybe one day I won't be at Nimbus, or maybe somebody who's better at running bigger companies will. But of course, I'd like to be involved in it. But at the end of the day, our goal is to build something that will help people, that will better people. And you're not the most smartest person in the world. There's always somebody who's got a little bit more experience than you. And if that day comes, then let it come.
Mm-hmm. I know it's 100% weird.
Yeah.
To think about what legacy do you want to leave when you're just starting. Mm-hmm. But I think that's also what you need to kind of do. Mm-hmm. So it's that tough balance where, like, this is something where, like, I think, like, that kind of clip I would not potentially put out today.
Okay.
Or parts of it I would, but parts of it I wouldn't.
Right.
Because there is that, it's sometimes I think hard, especially if you're young, where you say something that's big and kind of people know that there's some level of like, you're just making this up.
Right.
It's like, oh, you're just someone with a big idea. You need to execute. And then it's interesting, I think, to then pull that up, 20 years later, where it's like, oh, I've executed this.
Right.
And it's like, we built this with intentionality the entire way through. Mm-hmm. Like, I know personally, like, I always wanted to build things very intentionally, which is very scary, because you're like, oh, like, this isn't something that I want to just build today and then be gone tomorrow. It's like, I want to build something that even when I'm no longer involved, it goes on with the same kind of mantra, the same kind of culture, and the core stays the same. Again, and something like we kind of talked about, where like you keep the core and like
the culture is
consistent.
Right.
What has been the culture at Nimbus? Like, I think honesty is clearly one of the pillars, but like, what have you guys set the actual core values? Or
honestly, I don't think we've set the core values. I think for us, it's all about Like you mentioned, honesty. For us, it's important that we're there to help people, that we're genuine. And again, I think because we're so early, and it's hard to figure out I feel like a lot of those things come with time, and as a company grows, you kind of see what's working. And right now for us, we're still in the phase of figuring out what's working, and so at the end of the day, right now, for now, it's about being there to help people, to connect people, and just being honest about it, and trying to be there to serve people in that sense. And so, and perhaps maybe in a year from now it'll change. We'll look back on what worked and develop other core values.
What was the changing factor of saying this is a passion project to, oh, we're taking this serious now?
Honestly, graduating, being just about to graduate from university. And for me, I had gotten an offer to do a health program at UCSF, and doing it would really bolster up my med school applications. And at the time, we had spent a year, building up the mock-ups, and we got to the finals of Dobson, but we didn't place. But that meant that there was promise in what we were doing. And so with graduation coming into effect, you need to start thinking about this. And so I thought long and hard about it, and I declined my offer. I took a screenshot of it to just remind myself, but no regrets. I would do it again, and I don't regret ever doing that. And it's
if you say that 3 more times, I'm not going to believe you, but for now it
was look, it's definitely I'm really happy about everything, and I think at that point for me, that was when things really became real, when I clicked that rejection button and I said, okay, this path closed, it's just this path. And so ta-da. And so that was the point. Graduation. Yeah.
Oh.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah, please do.
Are you are you scared about failing right now, or?
That's a good question. I am not. Again, I look at 2 different.
Or what's your approach to it?
Yeah, I've said this multiple times in my life, where I'm long term, I'm laughing to the bank. My own career is set.
Right.
I don't have to worry, and I know that, and I'm it's not coming from a place of cockiness. I'm just looking at my experiences. I'm going to land on my feet really, really well, where whatever happens. There's that there's the terrifying aspect of if we do not figure things out fast enough, it's maybe things go away, and it's tough. Where it's again, do I think we're doing anything wrong? I don't think we're necessarily doing everything right, but I do think we're doing a lot of things right, and it's just there's things that are out of our control, and there's nothing it's just terrifying where it's hey, maybe things don't work out, or we adjust and stuff like that. And it's we have so many it's weird saying that, because again, we have so many really good things going on, and there's so many different projects, and it's just in so many different spheres. I think my fear right now is that there are certain spheres that are doing less well than the others. For the studio to work the way we intended it, we need to automate it fully, where someone can really walk in and there's no one here. Right. Because it doesn't, it's just too high of a human cost to operate it. Right. To the, how we have. Right. Because basically, operating it by humans is basically, even though that it's self-contained, we're still spending the same amount of time we would for any other project. So it's if we're going to do that, it makes more sense just to do the normal project. Right. So I'm just terrified of that in a little way. I am right now going through that grieving process of we have set timelines of if this doesn't work fast enough, it's just going to be an arm that we have to chop off. Just to, and I'm okay with that, because we're going to save the body. Right. Everything's fine in that front, but it's just oh, this is reality.
Well, I think just two things that I wanted to add on from that. I think the first thing is I was talking to Phil Cutler, CEO of Great Slam, and he gave us advice, and he said that the biggest reasons companies fail are either the founders give up or they run out of money. And I feel like for early stage companies like us, I feel like it's not necessarily we run out of money. I think it's more that we run out of passion, because at this point in this stage, I think it's relatively. I mean, it's not easy by any means to find investors, to find money, but I think if you have the passion, you'll be able to meet with people, reiterate, model the business plan, and just push through, and be able to get the funding that you need. I can't speak for larger companies. I probably, if you're running, you have $1 million in operating expenses and all of a sudden you run out of money, it's much more difficult to find that. But I think for early stage companies, that's the case. But that was the first point. But the second thing is that, you're running a bunch of experiments, and I think that's the right thing. Not all experiments are going to work. And
yeah, no, again, and I say this as, it's just like, I will be very open and honest that, hey, WeWork is really expensive to run a studio out of. Right. It was a stretch.
Right.
I think we learned a shit ton of lessons, and I'm very glad we did it. Mm-hmm. It has opened so many good conversations.
Right.
And I'm so happy about that. But the reality is, like, for me right now, it's like we have such a good, passionate team of everything that we're doing. Mm-hmm. We need to have money to do all the other projects that we need to. And it's like, if this is the one thing that is holding us back, I'm like, I need to, as CEO, kind of let this die.
Yeah.
If it is going to kill us.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
And that's just the reality. And it's not, and it's even, for me, it's like, not that I don't believe in it, and it's not that I think this is where we're going to go eventually. Mm-hmm. I just try to get us there too quickly.
Right.
And it's that hubris of like, okay, well, I also just didn't know.
Right. And I think, it's important that we run different experiments. And for us, what we pivoted towards was actually an experiment that we ran. And, we decided that, hey, rather than expanding by recruiting our own Nimbus tutors and marketing with our Nimbus ambassadors, that we would license it to a few universities and see where that would take us. And that worked out really well. They have a lot more brand presence than actually than we do, and we unfortunately just can afford it. So we decided to kind of just run these experiments with these student unions, and they turned out really well. One thing that I learned was this model may not have worked, but we learned a lot, and drawing from the experiences that we ran, that we had through this experiments that we ran, and that's given us a lot of credibility, and at the end of the day, it's allowing us to help them develop effective tutoring programs. And so it's a little different than what we first thought, but at the end of the day, it achieves the same thing, which is to provide something that can better people. And I think, for you, the studio may not be the right thing, but at the end of the day, like I said, going back to the earlier point, is the dots always connect, and the experiences that you draw upon from this experiment will work its way into other experiments that will work out.
Oh, don't worry. I'm super confident about that.
Yeah.
Again, as I've been saying, I have this weird dichotomy in my brain where it's like, the short term I'm super stressed, but the long term I'm like not worried at all. Mm-hmm. And I just need to somehow have them merge.
Balance it.
Yeah, I just need to get to like some middle term where it's like, no, things are fine.
Right. I think that's part of our jobs. We got to run experiments, and
I think that's what I've been realizing more and more, where it's
plant a bunch of seeds.
Plant a bunch of seeds and see what grows, as you said. But it's also like the worst thing to do is be afraid of like failing, because then you do nothing.
Right.
Like that's the worst thing to do. It's like you have to like be like, okay, something's gonna work, and just like try a few things here and there, like make small experiments. But like if you haven't figured out exactly what works, test a few different things.
Well, you guys have something that does work, which is creating content that people love to see and that companies want. And
I know.
And I think that's already really something that's great. And I think, for us at Nimbus, that includes, helping universities and educational institutions and student unions launch effective programs. And I think as long as a company has that for you guys, creating great content videos that people love, and for us, launching and programs for student unions, then you can afford to run these experiments. And the studio may not have worked, but I'm sure you got other experiments planned out. We're doing other things too. I told you that we're signing up different kind of companies in different disciplines, and kind of licensing our technology in the same way.
Which is really interesting
to them.
Yeah, because I know you always talked about wanting to take it past just tutoring, and it's just like skill learning.
Yeah,
in general.
We're thinking of changing our name over the summer.
Ooh.
To maybe just Nimbus, maybe Nimbus Learning, something like, and tutoring is where we started. But I think now, and that's again another thing with this pivot actually. It allowed to get us to where we wanted to be quicker. And I don't know if I talked to you about this, but another big thing that happened in university that really made an impact on Nimbus and what we wanted to do was, we had gone through the tutoring experience, but I also used to play really competitively for table tennis.
You did. You are incredible at table tennis. You have beaten me on multiple occasions.
Yeah. Well, it's I like table tennis. I like ping pong.
I think that is putting it very mildly. You love table tennis.
Yeah, I do, and it's one of my passions, and I was fortunate to play for some really competitively and play at a very high level. But at the end of the day, that passion kind of I brought it with me through university. And I remember always getting made fun of because people were saying, "Oh, you're playing ping pong. That's not a real sport." The hockey guys were always telling me that, and it always kind of put a little chip on my shoulder.
The lax bros telling you, "This isn't a real sport." It's like, shut up.
No, it is. It is.
Olympics. It is a legitimate sport.
Exactly, but it put a chip on my shoulder, and so when I got to university, I joined the McGill Club, the McGill Table Tennis Club. And I signed up to be a coach, and going back to it, so one of the experiences was that I really wanted to teach people ping pong, just to kind of show them that this is something that's a sport. Yes,
that you can have fun.
Exactly, yeah. That was really important. And so I noticed that, I was having these practice sessions with people, and I was very, very passionate about it. And, at first it was just 2 students, then it became 4, then it became 8. And then next thing you know, every Tuesday nights, that's when I would do my coaching. I'd have 15 people line up just to hit a couple balls with me, and I would give them, tips on how to adjust their strokes and whatnot. And that really rung a bell for me. And I said, wow, and with the tutoring kind of problems that I have, wouldn't it be great if we can build something where, if you want to find somebody, that is really great at calculus, that is really great at ping pong or something that they're really passionate about, that there's a platform to do so. And so the pivot actually made us get to there quicker. It kind of showed us that, on one end, we're going to license and help, universities and student unions develop effective tutoring programs. But on the other, we're going to experiment and see if we can sign up a few and license to a few businesses and get them on that same platform and just kind of benefit from other businesses and from the student unions and whatnot, and sign up music tutoring companies or language companies or SATs, whatever, just outside of academics. So I'm really excited about that experiment because we're getting a lot of interest from different teaching practices. But yeah, and going back to that is, I think running experiments is really important. And and I think you should continue to run them even if they might fail. I don't know if this is gonna work out, but
don't worry, I will. It's one of those things. I think, again, I'm going through a grieving process right now a little bit, maybe of like, okay, we might have to let it die. But it's like, it's also been in that like spring kind of resurgence of energy. I'm like, you know what? I just need to be having like, as long as I'm having fun,
right,
then things are going to be okay.
But you guys still have something great, and I think that's what's really important. You guys can afford to run these experiments because you guys have, this ability to create great content that people love, and that's.
You're being too kind.
No, I'm not. I
hire create chaos.
Yes, we will.
The plug.
We will.
We
will. But yeah, I mean, and I think that's one thing and then just like we can effectively help students at the universities through unions. You guys have that with you as well, and so
yeah, I agree. Again, I think that's why I think that is actually like a much better way of why I'm like, when I say I'm not stressed about the long term, because I'm like, I know we do really fucking good work. I know
it's great. It's not just, it's not good. It's fantastic.
Like me personally, like I put every single ounce of energy into anything I do. And I've built like the team I am building.
Right.
Everyone is the same, like of the same kind of nature where like everyone's pretty crack at what they do.
Right. Well, is that thing on? Or is it that thing?
They're both on.
Okay, well, I'm gonna look at this one. If you're watching this and you need a video for your company, make sure to hire George and Chaos and get them to do your videos because it's fantastic.
But that's again,
and he didn't tell me to say that. Okay, he didn't tell me to say that.
One day I just need to sit you down and be like, okay, Will, you're just doing all of our testimonials. You're gonna play 5 people. You're gonna play Will, Alex, Pam. Just like we just have you come in with a wig.
Yeah.
But no, it's that's why I'm not worried. And again, it's just like navigating like that negotiations of like, okay, hey, we're new. Figuring all that out, which is tough. It is tough.
Right.
But again, I'm like, I'm not worried. I am worried and I'm not worried. It's a weird dichotomy.
I know exactly how you're feeling, and just time and reflection and introspection, and you'll get the answer.
Well, it's been funny because like I keep on now doing more social not social networking, just networking events in general. Doing a lot of outreach, and part of me is like, oh, I realized like I should have been doing that a little earlier maybe, but I also know I've just been doing that naturally. So it's like it's a weird mix of like, that's why I think like right now I've been having this issue about just doing cold leads where I'm like, if it's completely cold, I'm like, I don't have a connection to you to like, so you don't know that I actually have your best interest at heart. And I'm trying to find that balance of like, no, I should be able to like tell someone that I don't know where like, hey, this is what we're like, this is why we're great. But it's like me coming okay with that. Like it doesn't need to be like in a like personal setting. It can be just like, hey, we're cool.
Right.
Check us out.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know about how has that been for you approaching organizations?
Strangers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, you're always going to get people that aren't going to respond, that aren't going to be interested or whatnot. But, for those people, it doesn't matter. It's not like you have a relationship with them or their opinions, you didn't even know them. So the fact that they didn't respond to you or that they're just rejecting you doesn't really faze us. I mean, of course it sucks. And I think for me, I had a cold calling job for Hollis Wealth, which is it's a wealth management company for summer. And so that experience, and I did that with my with one of the co-founders, Abdu, for a summer. We literally dialed numbers every day. We dial 300-400 numbers, asking, "Hey, would you like to meet our financial advisor?" Well, the pitch wasn't like that, but in a sense, and then we had a bunch of no's, no thank yous, just hanging up once they heard our voice, a few fuck yous, and so that whole experience hardened us. Where if you're not, there's always going to be people that aren't interested, and for everybody that's not interested, all it takes is a couple people that are interested, or even just one person that's interested. And
I think you put it really interestingly, where I think for me, I'm still so wrapped up in the company like as a personal failure or success, and I just need to step away from that. Where it's like, no, this is the company I started. This is my job, but it's not the sum of who I am.
Yeah.
And I should be, and I'm super proud of everything we've done. I'm like, okay, now it's time to just tell people, but it's no reflection upon me if they just don't want to listen.
Well, look, like I think there's nothing. Look, going back to it, George, you're like you're amazing. Like you look at this around you.
You flatter me.
No, you built this from nothing, from an idea in your head to, thousands of dollars worth of equipment and to all the people that you know. So don't let that get to you. And it might take a few days, but at the end of the day, keep going. And when you have these conversations with people, just they'll feel it when you're there trying to help them, though they really will. And you were talking about negotiations or whatnot, and sometimes it's important to give something to people that are new connections, but understand that they need to understand that this is a favor, and they need to also be able to compromise and provide something as well, whether it is other referrals or whatever. But at the end of the day, what he said, the most important thing is that you need to be out there to help people. And he said something that's really interesting that Robert Herjavec told him, one of the dragons.
Yeah.
And he said that, like, when you're in business or when you're older, something along the lines of that, there are no friends. You don't have any friends. You just have. I don't necessarily agree.
I really don't agree with that,
but there's a part where he said that I kind of agreed, but he said that you're there to. Okay, this isn't the part that I necessarily agree. Just going back to what I was saying, he said, you don't have any friends when you're older or in business, but you're there to serve people. You're there to help them. And once you do serve people, or once you do help them, then that's when you guys can become friends, or that's when you do become friends in that sense. It's definitely kind of one of those controversial statements, but
it's very clickbaity. I'm like, I can see that being like, this is something you post to be like, this is going to get all the engagement because like some people are going to be really for it and some people are going to be really against it.
Right. Yeah. Well, like for me, like, my parents just bought a place in Toronto, and so and I was coordinating all of that and meeting with the realtor, and at first it was just a very business oriented relationship, and we ended up he ended up helping us pick a really great unit, and after that we call each other up, we hang out and we touch base, grab dinner or whatnot, and so. To some extent, yes, but I don't think it's that black and white, I would say. And I think what I took away from that is as somebody offering a service to clients, the first step is to be there and to let them know that you're there to help them, that you're there to build this together, and then the second thing is once you've done that, then you establish a relationship and so that's kind of my 2 cents on it. But
no, I fully agree with you. I think my career has 100% built off of the kind of like deep caring.
Right.
Again, my business has, I want to say, up till now, 100% referral.
Yeah.
I spent $0 on marketing.
Right.
So so now we're trying to switch that up because again, referrals are really good. But they also come with the unexpected nature of referrals because people only ask for referrals when they need something.
Yeah.
So you can't. That's not.
It's also hard to scale.
It's not. It's really hard to scale and it's really hard to schedule.
Right.
So it's like, okay, how to tap that into something that's more sustainable.
Right.
And that's what I'm trying to crack right now, and I'm still working on it.
Right.
But it's like it's always come back to the human, and I think and that's the point of this show as well. It's just like having conversations that are real
Yeah.
It's great. We got through all like the kind of standard stuff, and then you get dig deeper and deeper, and then you just kind of hits.
Yeah, I had a question for you actually.
What question do you have for me?
Yeah. How did you know? I mean, for me, like I had a little taste of entrepreneurship when I was younger, but how did you know that like you were kind of, I mean, this was kind of what you wanted to do?
This goes back very much to me as a human being. I am very much a bad employee. I do not follow rules very well.
Yeah. Okay.
I need to build something like once, and this goes back to why I'm a workaholic is if I have an idea and I think I know how to fix it or build it, I can't stop. It's like a really bad itch, and I'll basically scratch that itch until I bleed. That's why I think I'm an entrepreneur, where it's just like I'm just kind of built that way. I can't imagine doing anything else. Right. And then I think I very much lucked out that I had, because again, I thought I was going to be an academic, and academia very much let me down. I was insanely depressed when I got to university for multiple reasons. But then I think I realized that I love storytelling and content, and I always wanted to make people think. That was actually why I wanted to be an academic. And I realized, I can actually do this in a very different way. I can just make content, make something engaging. And I just didn't think that the power of the way you could make content and make a career out of it was the right way of doing it. Yeah. Again, that's why I started my first company, Voco Studios. Like that was at the core, was we were trying to figure out a way of doing like video education, like on site and hand differently. Okay. We failed because I think we had the wrong team. Okay. We very much had the wrong team, and I've now I think said this very publicly. It's like I got kicked out, but it was very much just because we were at odds and we wanted different things. Right. I'm very grateful that they kicked me out. Right. They saved me a lot of time because I would not give up.
See, the dots connect when you look back.
Yeah, the dots connect. And then I simply I had kind of the epiphany of like, my long-term goal personally is just that I want to be making awesome content with people that I care about, and we can just make whatever we want. Yeah. It goes back to like me as a creator. Like I sometimes just have those fits of mania where I just have to do something, and I want to give myself the resources to be able to do that when I have those bouts. Right. Again, the couch that is in this space, I got last minute at IKEA. Yeah, I got it. I brought it.
Yeah, I remember the night you were like, I just went to IKEA and I furnished the place up. I saw we had like a glass of scotch.
Exactly. I live for those moments. Right. Other times, other days, I am very useless, but I know that I try to set myself up so that I'm like when I have those great, incredible days where I'm really on top of my A game, those are really cool.
Which reminds me, you did say something to me that I've been also taking at heart, which is that, you're not going to be 100% every day, but if you can focus on doing one or two things every day consistently, and then you've had yourself a good day. And
so clearly I'm really good at sharing my platitudes and what I want for myself. I'm sometimes bad at following through on my own.
Oh no, I think you're doing a great job.
I think so too. I think, and this is where I realize I think I'm just very hard on myself, and I think that's very common for a lot of people, especially founders. I think we get lost in the trees from the forest.
Yeah, you lose perspective a bit sometimes because you're so into it.
Yeah, no, I think we have gone through a lot.
Yeah.
Anyways, that is our show for this week. Thank you again so much to our guest, Will. If you want to find out more about Nimbus, you can check them out at nimbusapp.ca. And I would highly recommend that you follow them on certain social media platforms because they're an interesting company to follow. And obviously our show is sponsored by Chaos. If you would like to have any content, especially video produced, definitely reach out to us. We're more than happy to talk about storytelling and content and brand. Basically anything that's marketing. We really love that.
They're great at it.
And till the next episode, have a great one.
Yeah, thank you for having me, George.
No, it's a pleasure.
Is that it?
That's about it.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Let me take a selfie of
Please do. I should have done the same.